Step out, hands up. Don't reach for anything. You match the description.
Description of what, officer? I complied.
Lower your weapon. There's no probable cause.
Don't tell me my job.
Turn around. Fingers interlocked. Now.
I'm not resisting. I'm requesting a supervisor. My federal credentials are in the
Stop talking.
briefcase.
Then say it on.
The morning air was still cool when the voice cut through the parking lot. Step out of the vehicle now. Keep your hands where I can see them. The woman froze with one foot still inside the driver's door. The sound of traffic from the nearby highway hummed in the background. A delivery truck hissed as it reversed somewhere behind them. She slowly raised both hands, palms open, keys dangling from her fingers. Officer, I'm reaching for my phone to call my office. There is no reason for you to have your weapon out. The metal click was unmistakable. The officer's gun was no longer holstered. It was pointed directly at her chest. Not shaking. Steady. Intentional. Do not move. Do not reach for anything. You match the description. The woman swallowed. Her breathing stayed controlled, trained. Years of crisis briefings and emergency command rooms had taught her how to keep her voice level even when adrenaline surged. What description? I pulled over because you signaled me to. I complied immediately. It was 8:12 a.m. The sun reflected sharply off windshields, forcing half the parking lot to squint. A faint smell of burned coffee drifted from a nearby convenience store. Two pedestrians had stopped walking. One of them instinctively lifted a phone. The officer took a step closer, step away from the vehicle, slowly. She did exactly as instructed. Each movement was deliberate. Her heels touched the pavement. The car door remained open. The interior light stayed on, exposing a briefcase on the passenger seat and a laminated badge clipped to its handle, partially obscured. Sir, I need you to understand something before this escalates any further. Her voice was calm but firmer now. You drew your weapon on me without explaining probable cause. I am not armed. I am not resisting. I am asking you to lower your weapon. The officer's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked briefly to the gathering onlookers, then back to her face. Don't tell me how to do my job, I said. Step back. This was supposed to be routine. A vague call. A black woman in a late-model SUV parked too long near a government building. Suspicious behavior. That was all dispatch had said. But now there were witnesses. Phones. A silence spreading outward like a ripple. The woman stopped moving when her back hit the edge of another parked car. She could feel the cold metal through her coat. Her hands were still raised. Her eyes never left the weapon. Officer, I am giving you one more opportunity to de-escalate this situation. De-escalate! The word hung in the air, sharp and unfamiliar. He didn't lower the gun. Instead, his voice rose. Turn around. Face away from me. Interlock your fingers behind your head. Now. A murmur spread through the small crowd. Someone whispered, "This is getting out of hand." Another voice said, "Keep recording." The woman closed her eyes for half a second. Not in fear, in calculation. She turned slowly, exactly as instructed. Her fingers interlocked. The parking lot felt suddenly too quiet. Neither of them realized it yet, but the next few minutes would end a career trigger, a federal investigation, and expose a truth that the officer was not prepared to face. The story does not move forward yet. It steps backward. Before the gun was drawn, before the parking lot went silent, before phones came out and careers began to collapse. You need to understand exactly who was standing there with her hands raised. Her name was Valerie Thompson. At 47 years old, Valerie Thompson was not new to pressure. She was the director of a regional division of Homeland Security overseeing emergency response coordination across 3 states. Her signature authorized counterterrorism task forces. Her briefings reached governors and federal agencies. When disasters happened, hurricanes, active threats, infrastructure attacks, she was the one people waited for on the line. But none of that came easily. Valerie grew up in Baton Rouge in a 2-bedroom apartment with her mother and grandmother. Her mother worked double shifts as a nurse. Her grandmother watched her after school and taught her one rule that shaped her life. You survive by being twice as prepared and half as loud. Valerie took that rule seriously. She graduated top of her class. ROTC scholarship, criminal justice degree, then public administration, then federal service. 24 years of early mornings, late nights, and constant scrutiny. She learned to speak carefully, dress conservatively, document everything. She learned that mistakes made by people who looked like her were never treated as small. After 9/11, she was assigned to emergency logistics. Long days at command centers. Sleepless nights coordinating supply chains and evacuation routes. She watched colleagues burn out. She stayed. She rose. Not because she was aggressive, because she was precise. When she became director, she did not celebrate publicly. She knew what the appointment meant. More responsibility, More visibility, more eyes waiting for failure. That morning, she was driving to a secured federal facility for a routine interagency meeting. Nothing urgent, nothing dramatic. She had arrived early and parked to review notes before going inside. Her badge was in her briefcase. Her phone held encrypted work messages. Her life was orderly. Controlled. Until it wasn't. Now step to the other side of the story. Officer Daniel Croitz had been on the force for 9 years. White, 36, clean record on paper. No suspensions, no use of force incidents officially sustained. But records rarely tell the whole story. Croitz was known among coworkers as intense, by supervisors as proactive. He volunteered for extra patrols near government buildings. He liked feeling in control of sensitive zones. He believed threats came from people who didn't fit. In the past 4 years, he had been named in 7 citizen complaints. All dismissed. All vague. All involving people of color stopped for suspicious behavior. No evidence, no charges, no consequences. He told friends he was just doing his job. That people were too sensitive. That he trusted his instincts. That morning dispatch sent out a low-priority alert. Suspicious vehicle. Female occupant. Sitting too long near a restricted area. No plate check requested. No description of criminal behavior. Just a feeling reported by someone watching. Croitz responded immediately. In his mind, he was preventing something. Proving his value, showing vigilance. He didn't know Valerie Thompson. He didn't ask who she was. He saw a black woman in a government-adjacent space and filled in the rest himself. 2 histories were moving toward each other without knowing it. One built on discipline restraint and earned authority. The other built on unchecked assumptions and institutional protection. And when those 2 histories collided, the result was inevitable. Valerie's back was still to the officer when she heard the first phone camera beep. Someone had started recording. The sound was small, almost polite, but it changed everything. Officer Croitz sensed it too. His shoulders stiffened. The gun did not lower, but his stance shifted. Authority behaves differently when it knows it is being watched. "Ma'am, I told you not to move." "I am not moving," Valerie said. Her fingers were still interlocked behind her head. "My hands have not changed position in over 30 seconds. Her voice was measured, not submissive, not defiant, controlled. The kind of voice that comes from briefing rooms, not street corners. A man across the lot spoke up. "She's not doing anything. Why do you have a gun out?" Croitz ignored him. Another person raised a phone higher. A woman near the sidewalk whispered, "This feels wrong." Valerie felt the presence of the crowd without turning her head. She could hear shoes stop, car doors close, the background noise of the city thinning as attention focused inward. "Officer," she said louder now so the cameras could hear. "I am requesting that you call your supervisor." That was the moment Croitz should have stopped. Instead, his jaw clenched. "Do not tell me how to conduct my stop." "I am not telling you how," Valerie replied. "I am invoking my rights." She took a breath. "I am a federal employee. I am en route to a secured facility. My credentials are in my briefcase on the passenger seat. You can verify them right now." Croitz took a half step forward. "You are not reaching for anything." "I am not reaching. I am informing you." The crowd grew. 6 people, then 10. Someone across the street had started filming from a distance. A car slowed, then parked illegally just to watch. "This is why they record everything now," a voice muttered. Croitz's eyes darted. Phones everywhere, angles, witnesses. The situation was slipping out of the tight frame he preferred. He raised his voice. "Turn around fully. Hands behind your back. You are being detained." "On what grounds?" Valerie asked. "Suspicion." "Suspicion of what?" He did not answer. She turned anyway. Slowly. The asphalt was cold through the soles of her shoes. She could smell the faint oil and rubber beneath her. "Officer," she said, every word deliberate. "I am complying. But you are escalating without cause, and this interaction is being recorded." That sentence hit him like a challenge. He reached for his cuffs. The metal sound echoed louder than it should have. The crowd reacted immediately. "Hey, don't do that. She's calm." "What's your badge number?" someone shouted. Croitz snapped the cuffs around Valerie's wrists. Tight. Too tight. She winced just slightly. Not from pain, from the weight of what this meant. As he guided her toward the patrol car, she spoke one last time, her voice steady carrying. "Officer Croitz, I want you to remember this moment, because when this is reviewed, every second of it will matter." He said nothing, but for the first time since stepping out of his cruiser, doubt flickered across his face. The back door of the patrol car opened with a hollow thud. Valerie was guided forward, not shoved, not gently either. The space between those two things where control pretends to be professionalism. "Lower your head." She did. The cuffs pulled tighter as she bent. Cold metal pressed into her wrists. The smell inside the car hit her immediately. Old vinyl, disinfectant, stale coffee soaked into plastic. The door closed. The sound was final. For a moment, everything slowed. The crowd blurred through the tinted window. Faces distorted by glass and reflection. Phones still raised. One man shook his head slowly. A woman covered her mouth. Inside the car, Valerie sat perfectly still. Her knees barely touched the hard partition. Her hands rested behind her back, numbness already creeping into her fingers. She inhaled through her nose, exhaled slowly. This was not fear. This was focus. She marked time without looking at a clock. The engine turned over. The radio crackled. A dispatcher's voice murmured codes she knew by heart. No one spoke. The patrol car pulled out of the lot. As it moved, Valerie's mind shifted gears. Not emotionally. Operationally. She replayed every second. The initial approach, the weapon draw, the commands, the lack of articulated cause, the refusal to verify credentials, the cuffs, the witnesses, the cameras. She cataloged it all. Outside, Officer Croitz drove with both hands locked on the wheel. His jaw was tight. He had stopped looking in the rearview mirror. The silence stretched. Halfway to the station, his radio chirped again. A supervisor asking for status. Routine check. Traffic stop turned detention, Croitz replied. Subject uncooperative. Valerie did not react. But inside, something shifted. Uncooperative. That word had been used against her before. In meetings, in evaluations, in moments when calm insistence made people uncomfortable. The car stopped at a red light. A pedestrian crossed slowly, staring straight at Valerie through the glass. Their eyes met. Just for a second, the light turned green. When they arrived at the station, the doors opened again. Fluorescent lights spilled across the pavement. The morning had fully arrived, people going about their day. Inside, another woman was about to be processed like a problem. As she stepped out of the car, cuffs still tight, Valerie spoke quietly. Officer, I want it noted that these restraints are causing pain. Croitz hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second. Then he said nothing and walked her inside. Behind the desk, a desk sergeant looked up, took in the scene, the posture, the composure, the briefcase still left in the vehicle. What's the charge? Suspicious activity near a secured location, failure to comply. The sergeant's eyes moved back to Valerie. Ma'am. She met his gaze evenly. Before you go any further, Valerie said, I am requesting that my agency be notified immediately. The room went quiet. The injustice was no longer theoretical. It was procedural, documented, logged, and it was about to unravel. The holding area was quiet in the way only police stations ever are. Phones ringing somewhere behind walls, boots on tile, low voices carrying fragments of other people's worst days. Valerie sat upright in the processing chair. Her hands were still cuffed. Her posture was straight, calm enough to unsettle the room. The desk sergeant kept glancing at her paperwork, then at her face, then back down again. Name, Valerie Thompson. Date of birth. She answered. Employer. There was the pause. The kind that stretches longer than it should. Department of Homeland Security. The pen stopped moving. The sergeant looked up slowly. Say that again. Department of Homeland Security, Valerie repeated. Director level. My credentials are in my briefcase in the vehicle. I requested verification at the scene. That request was denied. The room shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But something fundamental changed in the air. The sergeant stood. Officer Croitz was leaning against the wall a few feet away, arms crossed, jaw still set. He straightened instinctively. The sergeant walked over to him and lowered his voice. Did you verify her credentials? Croitz shook his head once. She claimed federal authority. I couldn't confirm on scene. The sergeant stared at him. You didn't try. Before Croitz could answer, the watch commander stepped out of his office. Lieutenant Harris, 22 years on the job. He had seen panic before. He recognized its early signs. What's going on? The sergeant handed him the intake sheet without speaking. Harris read it, once, then again. His face didn't drain of color. It tightened instead. Where's the briefcase? Still in the vehicle, sir. Harris exhaled slowly. Bring it in, now. Minutes later, the briefcase sat on the metal table. Harris opened it himself. Inside, everything was orderly. Folders, a government-issued phone, and clipped neatly to the inner pocket, a Homeland Security badge with Valerie's photo and name. Real, undeniable. Harris closed the case. He didn't look at Croitz right away. He turned to Valerie. Ma'am, I need to confirm your identity through official channels. Of course, Valerie said. Her voice hadn't changed since the parking lot. Harris made the call, spoke quietly, gave a name, a title. The confirmation came faster than expected. Yes, that's her, Director Thompson. Why is she in custody? The lieutenant didn't answer immediately. When he hung up, he stood still for a moment, then turned. Remove the cuffs. The sound of metal unlocking echoed sharply. Valerie flexed her wrists slowly. Red marks ringed her skin. Officer Croitz was staring now. Not defiant, not angry. Afraid. Lieutenant Harris faced him fully. You drew your weapon on a federal director without probable cause. You detained her. You ignored verification requests. You brought her into this building. Every word landed. You are relieved of duty effective immediately. Turn in your weapon and badge. Croitz opened his mouth, closed it again. Valerie stood. For the first time since the stop, she spoke with unmistakable authority. Lieutenant, I want every report, every recording, every body camera file preserved. Nothing is altered, nothing disappears. Harris nodded. Yes, ma'am. The truth had surfaced. And it was devastating. The video surfaced before Valerie reached home. Someone had already uploaded it. A 2-minute clip at first. Shaky, vertical, but clear enough. A uniformed officer with his weapon drawn. A black woman standing still, hands visible, voice calm. The sound of cuffs. The crowd reacting. By noon, it was everywhere. Cable news ran it on a loop. Social media clipped it into 10-second bursts. Headlines hardened with each repost. Federal official detained at gunpoint. Officer draws weapon without cause. Another example of bias in plain sight. By the end of the day, the full footage emerged. Multiple angles, clear audio. The request for a supervisor. The refusal, the cuffs, the drive. The narrative was no longer controllable. Valerie did not give interviews. She didn't need to. Her legal team moved quickly. Civil rights attorneys with federal experience. Former prosecutors who understood both the law and the optics. A complaint was drafted line by line. Fourth Amendment violations. Unlawful detention. Excessive force. Racial profiling. Failure to supervise. Every claim backed by video timestamps. The city issued a statement expressing concern. The police department announced an internal investigation. Standard language. Too slow, too vague. Public pressure exploded. By the second day, the video had passed 12 million views. Comment sections filled with anger and recognition. People telling their own stories. Different cities, same pattern. This could have been me. Internal Affairs didn't just review the incident, they pulled Croitz's file. 7 complaints. Similar language, similar stops, similar outcomes. No discipline, no pattern flagged, no intervention. That failure became part of the case. The department placed Croitz on unpaid suspension pending termination. His union declined public comment. Privately, they knew the footage was indefensible. 3 weeks later, he was fired. No ceremony, no press conference, just a notice citing violations of policy, improper use of force, and conduct unbecoming. The city settled quietly at first, then louder. The number was large. 7 figures. Enough to make a point. Enough to sting. Valerie donated a portion to civil rights legal funds. The rest went untouched. This was never about money. The department agreed to mandatory reforms. Body camera review escalation rules. Bias training with independent oversight. Early warning systems for repeat complaints. Federal monitoring. Careers shifted. Promotions paused. Policies rewritten. Valerie returned to work. At her next briefing, she didn't mention the incident. She didn't need to. Everyone in the room had seen it. What lingered wasn't the shock. It was the clarity. One stop, one decision, one refusal to listen. And a system forced finally to answer for it. What happened to Valerie Thompson did not exist in a gray area of the law. It was clear, precise, documented. From a legal standpoint, the first violation occurred the moment the weapon was drawn. Under the Fourth Amendment, an officer must be able to articulate specific and objective facts that justify a belief of imminent danger. A vague description, a feeling. A person sitting in a vehicle near a government building does not meet that threshold. Drawing a firearm without probable cause transforms a stop into a use of force. That decision alone triggered constitutional scrutiny. The detention that followed made it worse. Valerie complied with every command. She did not flee. She did not resist. She did not reach. She requested a supervisor and offered verification. Refusing to verify readily available credentials while continuing a detention violates established federal precedent. It is not discretion. It is negligence. The handcuffing crossed another line. Courts have repeatedly held that restraining a compliant subject without articulable danger constitutes excessive force. Painful restraints. Prolonged detention. No charge, no crime, no justification. This is not interpretation. It is settled law. But the deeper lesson sits beyond statutes. Psychologically, this incident followed a familiar pattern. Bias does not announce itself as hatred. It appears as suspicion, as intuition, as a sense that someone does not belong. Once that assumption forms, every action is filtered through it. Calm becomes calculated. Credentials become fake. Compliance becomes defiance. That is how escalation happens. Not because someone is dangerous, but because someone is imagined to be. This is why documentation matters. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation, the most powerful tools you have are calm and clarity. Keep your hands visible. Speak slowly. Ask for names. Ask for supervisors. Do not argue the law on the street. Let the camera do that later. If you witness something like this record, stand back. Say nothing inflammatory. Your video may become the only objective account when memories start shifting. And most importantly, understand this. Valerie Thompson had status, knowledge, resources, authority. Most people do not. That is why this story matters. Not because the system worked eventually, but because it failed instantly. And only corrected itself once the evidence became impossible to ignore. So ask yourself this. How many similar moments never become viral, never reach a supervisor, never get undone? Accountability does not begin with punishment. It begins with awareness, and awareness begins with telling the truth.